Meeting's now called to order. Roll call.
Ms. Flatley?
Yes. Here.
Mr. Ellis?
Here.
Mr. Savant? Ms. Stone?
Here.
Mr. Libby?
Here.
Ms. Goodrich?
Here.
Chairman Paspalakis?
Here. All right, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. Everybody's received the minutes in their package. Is there any additions, amendments, anything, or do I hear a motion to accept? Now, really, this should only be, the only person, it would be Robert or Teresa that should be making the motion because everybody else is new.
Of the minutes?
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed? There you go. All right, we're going to move on to, well, item 4 is just a procedural item, so I guess we're not voting on that. We just move on, but it's just to inform the public of the procedure about coming before the board and public comments. Anyway, so we'll move on to item 5, rezoning to planned development, redevelopment, PDRD.
Good evening, board members. We have a number of new board members, Mr. Chair.
Maybe before we move on to item 5, I should have the new board members introduce themselves, okay? We'll start with Krista.
Hi, I'm Krista Goodrich, and I own the Pallet Pub and Hopsicles, and now the world's most famous brewery on Main Street, and super excited to be part of this board.
Oh, I read an article about you.
Yeah, that's us.
Okay, all right, nice, okay.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Gary Libby. I am a refugee from the Board of Adjustments, where I served for a number of years. I'm also the former chair of our Economic Development Advisory Board here in the city for a couple of terms, and was the citywide rep on the last charter review. I think I'm the last person in Volusia County to serve on the State Cultural Board. It's a pleasure to be on this board. I don't know if you...
And you've been on this board, too?
No, I've been on the Main Street Redevelopment Board.
Okay, but it kind of...
But I wrote an editorial when this board was created in favor of it, and I was looking for copies. Maybe I'll bring copies for our next meeting.
No
It's
problem.
doing great work.
Okay, well, thank you. Okay, then we'll move on to Ashley.
I'm Ashley Flatley. I'm a realtor and partner in Black Pearl Real Estate on East ISB.
Okay, well, nice to have you all on board. Okay, now we'll move back to item 5.
Good evening. Reed Berger, Redevelopment Director, and I am happy to say we've got a couple projects for the board tonight. With COVID, we had a long lapse in some of the projects that would typically come to us. So now I'd like to start with the rezoning to a planned development, redevelopment, the Main Street Tattoo and Gallery. It is development number 2019-176. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, and we'll follow that procedure. And we do have a request by Jessica Gao from Cobb Cole on behalf of the property owners, Tombstone LLC and Karam Hullams Brun and Robert Gadati III to rezone 0.2 plus or minus acres of land located at 405 Main Street from Beachside Redevelopment Specialty Retail, that's RDB2, it's easy to say that, to a planned development, redevelopment to allow a tattoo establishment and art gallery. Now, I wanted to make sure that we run through the location here. A lot of you probably already know. You're in close proximity to this area. It's just directly to the east of the Pinewood Cemetery and right at the end of Hollywood Avenue. The air photo shows a little bit more of that area. on Main Street. And this is the zoning map. And the zoning map is something that will give you some idea of where the RDB2 ends. And so you're at the very western end of that area, which is the retail area for Main Street. And it's considered a pedestrian area. As you'll see in the next slide here, this is a pedestrian oriented land use. And a part of that is stressing that this is an area that's not intended to be a lot of parking for cars, that sort of thing. It's really supposed to be something where it's more intensive for the pedestrians to walk along. And so I want to point out one thing on this slide, and that is that there was a change in the one slide that we had prior provided to you in your packet. And the reason for that is we had some lines that were not exactly where they should have been. And through that Scrivener's error, we were able to make that adjustment and clean up that part of the map. So it's just for the record, okay?
Okay, now, when you say pedestrian, designated pedestrian, that was when we hired those consultants and they walked around Main Street and said, well, we'd like to see this be pedestrian versus buildings or what have you, right?
Well, it certainly contributed to it. I'm not sure which came first. I think you're talking about the Urban Land Institute.
Yeah.
When they were there. And Ms. Doan, I'm sure, has pretty deep knowledge of that. But that happened about the same time because it across the street, I know that one of the proposals there, and Mr. Libby, you have some history here as well. The idea was to put the parking behind the buildings and try to limit that parking from right in that corridor so that people could have, except for Bike Week and other bike events, it's supposed to be more pedestrian oriented. Okay?
Yeah, but, okay, obviously I have a problem when you tell a property owner, we want this to be a pedestrian way. I don't see how that, I mean, I'm against, telling a property owner that they can't do something, but we're not here telling them that they can't. So,
Right.
Go on, okay.
Okay. So a couple pictures that give you a sense of where the location is, the Pinewood Cemetery and the fence that's along there. You might remember that on Main Street, we did a lot of the white picket fences and the palm trees in that area. With the storms and other things, we've lost some of the trees in that area. The applicant is planning to open a tattoo establishment and art gallery in this two-story building, and this is in the Surfside National Historic District, Surfside Village. So it's not a local district, but it is national. And the upper story is intended to be a residential unit above, and the open lot to the east of the building that includes the decorative pavers that are already there. And would include a dry retention area to the north, will be landscaped, and that will be along the east side of the lot, and along the building to the east. The applicant intends to provide weekend and indoor and outdoor arts displays, including tents and music. This is a conceptual plan for that area that we just described. You're going to see that as we get into this a little further, you have the details in your report already. This is the facade as conceptually proposed, and the sign that would be placed on the building.
That's the 25 square foot wall sign?
No, that is not a 25 square foot wall sign. That's larger than what is proposed at this time. But that is what they provided in their concept. And as we get into the details, you'll see the size limitations.
Reed,
Yeah.
will this proposal come back to us, or is tonight it?
Tonight is it.
Okay, because I'd like to second my colleague's comment about the size of the sign, so we definitely have to resolve that, I guess. Okay.
And then there are a number of uses here. We've described just a few, but with planned developments, there are more uses that the applicant can choose from within reason. And so that's what you'll see up here is some of the different uses that they might see used in the future, and keeping in mind that the building itself, there could be another building on the pavers in the future, and in some cases that would require you coming back and having to amend a plan development. So we'll go to the I think the more significant part of this proposal is not just a tattoo establishment, which is not currently allowed in the pedestrian area. It's allowed up on Atlantic Avenue, allow those by right, where you have an RDB5 district. But in the RDB2 district, you have not only the tattoo establishment, but you also have this request for an outdoor art display that would include this provision for the time of the day and Saturday and Sunday to hold events, and that includes special events that would also be on this property. Right now, that I do want to mention that the event displays would be limited to the art display and the music and the tents, and what happens there would be revolve around art education, and so that's the intent of the applicant, and they can explain that further for you if you'd like. There are modifications that are requested, and they are talking about the limiting the number of wall signs. And in this case, right now, they're limited to one, and the applicant proposes they'd like to have two. Because there are two uses, the applicant is requesting a third sign that would not be a wall sign, but could be another type of sign, like a projecting sign. Also, they are requesting a section of the code regarding the outdoor art display that we just talked about, and that would be required as a modification.
Before we hear from the applicant, and since two board members already brought it up, I mean, I have no problem with the sign that I saw, but how big is that sign?
I don't have a measurement of it. It's just, again, it was conceptual, and they were trying to show the facade and where they'd like to put the sign
Okay,
on the wall.
all right.
But they didn't show the other two.
No, they
No.
didn't.
And what happens in that case is they will have to place those signs in accordance with the plan development and the sizes that they're restricted to. Everything else would default to the land development code and what's allowed in the RDB district. And they did provide a neighborhood meeting, and One thing that we noticed is that we had the notice in our files, but we did not have the actual information regarding the summary. This was way back in 2019. And so we have that now, and what I want to do for the record is pass that out to everybody here so that it is in the record.
And if I could go ahead and have the two board members who have the conflict, potential voting conflict, to address that so that you can participate, if you choose to participate in the discussion, it is disclosed that you have the voting conflict.
Wait, is it on this item?
Yes.
Who wants to go first?
Okay.
I'll go first. I'm recusing myself from voting because I am, in fact, the first tattoo establishment that was allowed in the city. So I was the first one to pull a PD agreement to be in any redevelopment area, and I'm 400 feet away. I have a tattoo establishment. Therefore, this is a direct, I stand to have financial change from it. So I'm recusing myself from voting, but I do plan to participate in the discussion.
Okay. And the second one?
Yeah, I plan on participating in the discussion as well. I'm learning an awful lot about this, but my conflict is sort of a technical one. In order for this project to even move forward, there was a defect in the title where a portion of property owned by Historic Pinewood Cemetery had been fenced on the applicant's side rather than on our side of the property. And in order to resolve that, the board voted to support the lease of the property needed in order to satisfy the application and not force the applicant to move his heating and air conditioning and a whole bunch of other things that were put on this property. This is what happens when you don't have title insurance, I guess. And so the conflict is I am the signator, one of the two signatories on the lease, and I'm the chief financial officer of Pinewood, and feel that it's probably proper that I do not vote. There is no personal gain on any of the members of the Pinewood board. We serve at no fee, but I think it's probably proper that I participate in the discussion, but not vote. Just to play it doubly safe.
I have one question for the city attorney. If you have two members that are abstaining, does that, or recusing themselves, does that affect the majority?
Yes, it would be, the majority would be of those voting members. So of the 4 remaining, you would need to have, hopefully not a tie,
3.
because there's 6.
3. No, but the one is not a voting member.
Oh, okay, so you have 3. So we still, for purposes, we have a quorum, then the remaining ones are enabled to vote.
But we have a quorum, though,
Yes,
for
yes,
this. Okay,
yeah.
all right. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. 4.
Do you want questions now, or you would like the presentation first?
Actually, I'm right at the recommendation for staff, and at that point, it's up to you if you want to ask me questions. Usually we go to the applicant, and then both staff and the applicant can.
Before we go to the applicant,
Okay.
you did address the sign as an item.
Right.
And what confuses me is that you're saying that that's for the 2 additional signs, not the sign that was pictured on the screen, or?
No, the sign is a wall sign.
Okay,
Okay, it's conceptual. That's what was provided.
but is it allowed under the LDC?
And
Not this size.
Not the size. And they would have to submit a sign permit and follow.
So that's not our decision.
Right.
Okay, so that's, regardless of how we vote today, will not be affected by the sign that we saw, because
That is correct.
Okay.
It's
Mr. Chairman, you don't have to vote today. In other words, if this application is wanting
Well,
in a number of ways,
I understand.
then
but
you're not forced
we're not-
to vote.
Yeah, I understand that, but my point is this, is that, it doesn't matter what we saw over there. If we vote to approve this, they still have to go through a procedure, and the procedure is going to limit the sign regardless of what we saw.
Right, we're not the sign permitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the question that I would have is why the applicant presented a packet with a lot of non-conforming, the size of the sign, I immediately saw that as Mrs. Doan did, as way too large, given the specs, unless this board feels that we're comfortable passing on issues like that to
But
the
we're-
planning board.
We're not voting on the size of the board,
Yeah,
though,
we're not
size of
voting
the
on it,
sign.
so it's,
That's not, we don't get to vote on
You're
that.
recommending, we're recommending.
We're recommending everything but that sign.
Yeah.
The problem in recommending this packet as stated is that unless it is conditional, it appears that we're in compliance with the size of the sign and the additional 2 other signs, unless there's a condition to the approval.
Yeah, but the condition to the approval, actually, if you read it, says window signs up to 25% of window area. So obviously, that picture does not, that's one, and it says projected size, and it says wall size 2 signs at a maximum of 25 square feet each. So we are actually giving the parameters of the signs that are allowed, and that's what we're passing. We're not passing that.
As long as the applicant realizes that.
Is that correct, what I just said?
Yes, and what I would ask is that we allow the applicant to speak to that issue in just a minute, and just give you my recommendation and step aside. And typically then, I will be happy to come back and address any questions after the applicant and the board have had their discussion.
Okay, and before we hear from the applicant, because last time I ran into this with Tony, he came and sat in the audience, and then I didn't recognize him from the previous meeting. Is everybody that's in the audience allowed to be in the audience? Because you brought up this item number 4, Yeah, that's, I didn't want to single you out, I'm sorry. Okay. All right. And the applicants go over there, and the people that speak, okay, now, okay. Sorry about that. Because last time I did that, I put myself in an embarrassing situation, and I apologize, Tony, okay?
Thank you.
All right. All right.
All right.
Now we can move on. Okay, the applicant would like to speak to us.
Could I finish?
Sure.
The recommendation, and that is that staff is recommending, if all the modifications are approved, to allow for the rezoning of the land at 405 Main Street, as described earlier in the presentation, from RDB2 to the PDRD, to allow a tattoo establishment and art gallery. The item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by the Planning Board on March 25th, 2021, and by the City Commission for the first reading on May 5th, 2021, and for a second reading on May 19th, 2021. That is a public hearing. And that is the end of my report.
All right. Would the applicant like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Jessica Gow with Cobb Cole Law Firm, 149 South Ridgewood Avenue. I've got with me Bobby Guadotti and Karen Broom, the property owners. So if you have questions for them, and I think Bobby might come up and say a few words after I do. I wanted to start by thanking staff. This application started in 2019, so it's been a long road to get here to our first public hearing, so we're excited. Thank you for taking time out of Bike Week to come hang out with us for a little bit. Like I said, we've been doing this for almost a year and a half now. We had our neighborhood meeting back in December of 2019 in the old Tombstone building. It was what you walked in, and it was kind of gutted inside, So I'm sure you guys are in the area. You've seen there's already been some facade improvements. They've repainted. They've taken down the blue awning there in that paver area, and they've got, some bigger dreams to come. So a really exciting aspect of this application is that we're looking to do something that the Land Development Code doesn't really consider at this point, which is the outdoor art display along with the art gallery inside of the tattoo establishment that they're looking for. So it'd be a tattoo establishment, there would be art there, and Bobby can talk more about his kind of vision for this. But the goal is to highlight local artists, local student artists, and kind of get their name out there, either for their resume or to help, sell the work here locally. And then they're envisioning kind of an art walk event kind of happening in that paver area. I'm from Pensacola originally, and they had a monthly art walk downtown that was kind of the hit of the city. And so I'm really excited to kind of see something like that come forward here in this corridor of the city, where it's kind of more family oriented. You can go out, there'll be, light music, the artists will come out with their artwork and display it for sale, and just kind of get everybody out there to get together and celebrate art here in our community. So that's kind of the cornerstone of what they're looking to do here. Before I let Bobby come up, he can touch base on that more. I wanted to talk about the sign, it came up. The rendering that you saw was a mock-up provided by the property owners. They just wanted to show you what the logo looked like. It is not to size. Sometimes on these projects, we have a fancy sign consultant come in and actually mock up dimensions and all of that. We didn't do that here. We're just giving you an idea of what we want the sign to look like. And there's a provision in the agreement that says the terms of the agreement control over any exhibit. So the signage provision that says the maximum area is 25 square feet, that's as big as it can ever be. And so that will be permitted through the sign permit process that Reed mentioned.
All right.
I would say just wanted to clarify that. And I would say we can take questions, or I can have Bobby come up and then we can do questions, whichever you guys would prefer.
Would you like to come up?
I'm Bobby Gadotti. Been working very hard to try to beautify the area. I was an art teacher here in Volusia County for over 15 years. I taught ages 1st through 12th grade, and I love art. I got into the tattooing, and it's a piece of art, it's a form of art, and I still do it to this day. But my bigger goal is to try to also implement the tattoo establishment to have an actual art gallery in it. From teaching and all the years of teaching, there was never a true place for seniors to display a senior art exhibition. So I want to try to get involved with the Volusia County school system if possible, and bring just awareness of student art, and have those students to be able to establish that when they go get their diplomas and everything, and they're able to tell their colleges and so forth, to help them through that. And also with the brick pavers on the weekends and so forth, just like over in Flagler. Yeah, Flagler Avenue, or not Flagler, excuse me, New Smyrna, Flagler Avenue, and then also in DeLand on Canal Street. They have these really beautiful walks that they have in the evening times. It brings community together. It helps families that be outside walking and enjoy art. And I just noticed that we do that here in Daytona. As an art teacher, I've noticed, when they do it on Beach Street just once a year, and I'd like to do that possibly once a month and just bring a light into that specific area. And I want all artists to be a part of that. It doesn't matter who they are within the area. And I'm not here to try to take away from anybody. I want to help everybody, their businesses and everything, to grow in that Pacific area. We worked very hard, and that's pretty much where we're trying to push. And the style of music and so forth, it's not going to be a rock like how it is during Bike Week and stuff. I want like something that's like a classical, something that families and people can enjoy when they bring their families and so forth. But that's kind of the dream so far, and then we'd like to take it, from there.
All right, well, thank you. Is there any questions for the applicant, starting with Krista?
No, I don't have any questions. I have comments, if we're allowed.
Okay, all right. Oh, well, let's first see. Gary, do you have any questions?
Mr. Gadotti, what percentage of your business would deal with the art consideration, and what part would be considered tattoo? Tattooing has been a very controversial issue in the city for many years, and its location is restricted for, I think, relatively sound purposes. And this would be the introduction on Main Street of a tattoo parlor, even if it's a portion of the building. What percentage would be devoted to tattooing, and what percentage are tattooing is a cash operation. You get a tattoo, you pay for it. The art exhibit and selling of the art is a much longer commitment.
So under the development agreement, the art gallery is an accessory use to the tattoo establishment. So under the city's code, that could be anywhere up to 49% of the business. It cannot be over half of the use on the property to be considered that accessory use. And I do think there is an existing tattoo establishment on Main Street that went through the same process. I think that was discussed a little bit earlier. But we think that it's appropriate for the location. We've worked with city staff on all the required buffering and enhancements, and we think that it'll be a good project here.
Okay, thank you.
Teresa?
Microphone.
Follow up to Gary's question. What is this, how much square footage are you devoting to the artwork, the art gallery indoors?
So that is not exactly set at this time. After this process, they'll have to go through the city site plan review process. That'll lay out the square footage of the site. It's an existing building, so that's helpful in looking at this. They are doing some renovations inside the building to kind of bring it up, plus update the interior. So it would, again, be no more than 49% of that interior. I think their plan, and Bobby can talk to this, is to have it pretty evenly split with a major focus on the art piece inside. Yeah, I think Bobby wants to comment on the question.
Also, for the artists and people that are actually displaying art, my goal is not to try to make a finance off of them as much as to have the artist that makes the money off of the canvases be able to actually donate to a cause that they get to choose from. So if somebody comes in and they're an artist that we're sponsoring that month, I'm not trying to take any proceeds. I'm actually trying to take and help that artist so that they can grow. But at the same time they grow, they can use a small percentage of that for displaying and being there if they're a local artist, not a high school or anything like that, but a local artist, and they're able to choose an establishment that they would like to, donate a percentage of their givings to.
So back to the signs, sorry. But fair enough, they'll all comply with the code, but with the exception of the quantity that you have. And I'm assuming you'll have the wall sign facing Main Street. I'm assuming you'll have another wall sign on the east wall of the building?
Yeah, so when we were talking with staff, we actually had staff go out and do a property walk with us, and we were talking, and we thought, the area that is directly adjacent to the cemetery, there's kind of just a blank wall there. And in redevelopment districts, we like to obviously support art and things like that, and we thought that a tasteful sign on that facade may be appropriate, so we've requested the flexibility to do so in the PD, just because it's the master zoning on the property. The current intention is just for the main wall sign that you've seen on the facade and the packet, obviously at 25 square feet and not where it's shown on the mock-up.
Right. And then, am I right, did you request 3 signs?
There are 2 wall signs. The third sign would be if you see sometimes downtown, and again, this is just a potential for future signage that you see in other areas, kind of one of those hanging signs that says, Main Street Tattoo, things like that. Yep.
Okay. I was just curious.
Okay, Robert?
When you do your tents in your outdoor area, do they have to get permits? Yeah. Like the rest of us have fun doing?
I would say, and a part of this process is going through, and staff has reviewed a conceptual event layout that shows kind of what that area would be set up as. When we proposed the outdoor event display, that's not something that's defined in the code, so we had to define it. And as part of that, the closest thing that the city has in their code is the special event permit. So we just kind of use that as the baseline for reviewing the use with staff.
So how many days out of the year are we talking about?
It was only permitted during the weekends. Your general special event is allowed for 14 days throughout the year. Our goal is once a month, as Bobby said. Starting out, we would like to get this event going. We didn't want to foreclose the opportunity for more than that, just because it's a zoning document. So the current document you have has Saturday and Sundays, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then on Sundays it's 9 a.m. to 7, which the general special event permits allow 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays.
So it's 2 days, not 1 day.
It is Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
2 days every week.
So, do you guys have to get a permit for every weekend?
It's in the thing.
Or is it one general permit?
No, the
They
guy
won't,
have to get one
they don't
for
need a permit.
every weekend. I would
Okay, so
think.
they won't need a permit to do it?
That's my understanding.
I say, as long as the scope falls within the very defined event,
Then you won't have to get a
then
permit
it
every
won't be a
weekend.
special event permit.
Okay.
If they decided to do anything else on the site, they'd have to go through that same permitting process.
So if
Just
this,
asking about the tents.
The tent's a question.
If there are tents, the tents have to have a review by our office, just as if you're building a window or a door. Your tents have to meet our standards for tents.
But they're allowed to have it every weekend if their tents meet your standards.
That's my understanding. That's how the PD reads.
Okay, that's fine. I just
Without extra permitting?
Like permanent installations, tents, like, or?
No, there has to be temporary structures. So
you
it's
get a
like the
building
white
permit
canopy.
Each time, unless it's a 10 by 10?
Yeah.
Okay,
It would just be like an artist market where people bring out their little
10 by 10.
Right, exactly. I would say the pop-up tents that you'd put up and take down, yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Wait, let me
Yeah,
continue on
okay.
and then you.
I thought we were through. I'm sorry.
Okay, Teresa, you done?
I'm done.
Okay, Robert?
So yes, I have questions. So clearly, tattooing is my business, and there is a tattoo establishment on Main Street, as we went over previously. And so one of which is on Main Street, 400 feet away, and there are 5 tattoo establishments within an eighth of a mile from here. It's my understanding that it seems like tattooing will be the primary business here, and that things will be displayed on the wall that artists could sell for themselves, which I have no opposition to. But my question is how does this bring a new business to the area when there are already 5 tattoo shops within an eighth of a mile and 7 districts where tattoo shops are allowed by right?
Yeah, and I think the redevelopment district defines business as individual business owners coming. We've got 2 Daytona Beach citizens and property owners who have a dream, and we're hoping to make it a reality. I think that tattooing is, like we said, an art form, and it's something that's unique to each shop. So, every artist has their own vision, their own standard, of course, more than anyone. I have 2 tattoos. No one usually knows that. And I've shopped around. You have to find an artist that meets your vision of what you want. And so I don't think that having another tattoo establishment necessarily takes away from the area. I think that if it's upscale and it's something that's done really well, which is what they're looking at here, it can really help. And it just brings people to the area to say, all right, who fits what I want best? Giving people more options and giving these citizens the opportunity to bring their dream forward.
I 100% agree. Mr. Godotti is already an artist in the area, so my question is what brings new business to the area?
He does work for a tattoo establishment currently. He doesn't have the ability
Doesn't
to
work
say
for one
that.
currently? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well,
No,
that
he
answers
does.
my question. My other question, you do?
He does work at a tattoo establishment. He doesn't own and operate one.
Oh,
It's the-
okay, so it would be the owning and
Right,
operating.
yes.
Okay, my other questions have already been answered, so
Okay.
that's it.
Okay, Ashley, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. And I just want to point out that today we are strictly rezoning .2 plus or minus acres of land from RDB2 to PDRD to allow for it. Okay. And, no signages, no whatever. Okay. All right. Now, Gary, you said you had a follow-up question?
No, maybe a comment.
Okay.
So,
All right. Now, do we have any?
I have a follow-up question. If they put a sign on the east side of the building, would that do anything to prohibit a future mural?
If there's a future mural, it would come before this board.
Right, but is having a sign on the side, does that, I just don't know.
It would not, a mural would not, once they get the signs permitted, they could always apply for a mural, and it's up to this board whether we want to accept it or not. Okay. All right, sorry, I figured you didn't want to get up and down there. All right. Okay, is there anybody to speak to this item? We have Ann Ruby. Ann Ruby. There she is. Okay.
Hi. I attended Ann Ruby, 137 Park Avenue.
Thank you.
I attended that neighborhood meeting, and at the neighborhood meeting, there was no mention of events at anywhere near this frequency. I think there's no mention of events regularly being held in that lot, so I think that the neighborhood meeting might need to be reheld, because neighbors might have an issue with regular events being held. So that's all. Thanks.
The backyard, I mean, behind them, how close is the residential? This is for Reed.
The next lot is residential, I think.
The very next lot
Yeah.
behind?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a residential neighborhood behind there.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just say that the area over just next to it is a residence above, and it is a commercial area, and it's intended as commercial, part of what was Tombstone ownership.
Right.
And so as you go to the north, there's a large property. Most of it's vacant. It gets used for parking in the past for special events. And so, again, most of it is empty. And there is some commercial activity, I believe, that's also in that particular building, because it's zoned RDB 8. And single family, for example, is not an allowed use in that zoning district.
On Hollywood, are there any residential properties on Hollywood?
There are residential as you go to the far north end of that block. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Reed.
So that would be the neighborhood that Ms. Ruby is referencing? Because there is, it's all, there aren't any other
Reed,
zoned residential.
on the PD, there were specific times. I think they said 7 o'clock on Sunday, and what time on Saturday?
Yeah, it's in here. Let's see. Can you speak to it?
Yes, absolutely. It is 9 to 7 on Saturdays. Sundays it is, 9 to 10 on Saturdays, 9 to 7 on Sundays.
Okay, so
it's a
we're
little
not-
different from the special event criteria, which is 8 to 10 p.m. on both days.
Okay. All right. Okay, is this for this item? All right. David Keyser?
David Keyser. I own a Daytona Hardcore Tattoo. I have two shops, one on Atlantic, right around the corner, and I have another one on Nova. Tattooing, yes, it used to be like something that was a lot more, you heard about bikers doing it. You heard about like tattoo drug dens. You heard about it, it was a totally different light 20 years ago, but now it's changed. It's been exposed to, mass media and the internet, and everybody is into this now. It's not just bikers. It's not just ruffians or anything. It's families. It's everybody is into it. It's like the thing. Everybody turns 18. The first thing they do is get a tattoo. It's just what's happening now. And as far as like all the tattoo shops that are around, I currently have 16 tattoo artists, and we have more business than we can handle. There's plenty of tattoos to be out there for everybody. All these shops are able to coincide around each other. It's not like it's cutthroat because there's so many shops here like it is in some other places. The amount of tattoos that we have come here, we have more than we can handle. And to have another place right down the street on Main Street, just like Bobby, that is run by somebody like Bobby. You don't understand the kind of guy you got here. All right, this guy, for years and years, he was a school teacher, an art teacher at the Christian Academy. He was a football coach, a weightlifting coach. This guy goes above and beyond for everybody. This is a really good guy, and to entrust him with a part of your city and its image and everything you're wanting to do, I can tell you that there's nobody that I'm more proud of in this industry than that man right there. And if you were to give him a chance and allow him to achieve his dreams, you will not regret it. All right, you will go down there, you will see what he does, and you'll be impressed. That's all I got to say about it. So, if I could vote, you know what my vote would be.
That's very nice of you. Jason McFerrin.
Good evening. Thanks so much for having me. I'm here to speak on behalf of my good friend, Bobby. Known him for 11 years in the pastoral level, at the Christian school, in business. I've been in the area for 35 years. I'm like the gentleman there. I just am not a tattoo guy myself. I have 6 children, all of which Bobby has taught at the Christian school, 4 of which have been tattooed by Bobby. So, you know, I'm very proud to know Bobby. One thing I'd love to say to the zoning department, zoning's probably the easiest part of this. Welcoming a man like Bobby, who is literally a bright light in the community, wherever he goes, is going to be an added benefit and blessing to Main Street, bottom line. His vision, his character is above board on every level. I think as far as a businessman myself, you know, we operate facility cleaning, so I have buildings that are right next door to each other that another, you know, business is actually cleaning, and I'm right next door. So competition can be healthy as well, to the gentleman there. So I think, you know, bringing Bobby on and passing this through would just be a tremendous blessing for the community, and I'm glad to support him as a friend, and hope that you guys can come to that term. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, well, I guess that closes public discussion. And we've already had comments, so is there any motion on the floor?
I had questions. I didn't have comments yet.
Okay.
My comments would be, is it right for us to limit competition? And I hear what you're saying, but I mean, I have a brewery, so if another brewery comes before the board to question what kind of business they're going to have, I don't think that's our choice. I think it's free market. I understand that we're changing the zoning, but we've changed zoning before, and we're on a street that desperately needs business. Now, on to the every weekend art situation. It's unfortunate, in my opinion, that there's so many rules about getting events going right now. That has to change at some point. And so starting to allow something like this where we do have tents on the weekends and art shows and people coming to Main Street like they do in New Smyrna would only benefit the city, in my opinion. So that's just my comments on it.
Thank you very much. All right, so is that a motion for approval?
A motion to approve, yes.
Okay.
Are we done with public comments?
Well, right now is, you have abstained from voting, right?
Or are we done with board comments?
Wait, who's speaking? Oh, there you go.
Right,
Okay.
right here.
Yeah,
Are we-
can't see with the mask.
Yeah, I know.
With the mask's on, it's very hard. I would like to say that, first off, I know going under this process how hard it is to wait on coming before a vote with the board, and I know the applicant has been very patient from the time that they had their neighborhood meeting. A long time has passed. And I applaud anyone who is willing to undergo this process. It's painful. I believe in the free market. My questions were not directed as a derogatory term. They're simply questions. Anybody who is willing to go through this PD agreement is more than willing to open a business, and I applaud them. I think that our zoning, as far as things go and how uses are in the city, needs to change vastly, and the free market needs to decide what stays and what does not stay within our redevelopment areas. I think we're far too restrictive. And I think an outdoor art market and outdoor music anywhere in our area is a good thing. I think it needs to be less hard for any business in this area to have outdoor music and events. I'm done.
And I have a comment.
Okay.
When Teresa and I served on the Main Street Board, we were confronted at every meeting with, I don't know how many different zoning categories were on Main Street. It was almost impossible to introduce new people with great ideas onto the street. And I'm not supporting or against this, but I think the zoning change is progressive. I think it's the way we need to go. And I'd love to say more, but I really can't say more than that. I think it's in the right direction. The change we're doing, some of the other issues will be dealt with colleagues of ours on other boards, some of the particulars, specifics. But the big change, the zoning is this is a big change for Main Street. And the board needs to be satisfied that it's a progressive in the right direction. And then the rest is, I think, easy.
The one thing I will say about a PD is pretty much they have to live by the agreement. And so it's a lot more restrictive than just a general zoning category. So I would agree with you that them agreeing to rezone into a PD makes it more restrictive for them, and gives the city, I guess, a little power of enforcement to make sure that they live up to their agreement.
It's a quality change of zoning.
Okay.
Put it like this.
So-
It values the property up, not down, which has always been a problem on
So-
Main Street.
So we have a motion. Do I hear a second, which could either be from Teresa or by Ashley?
Second.
Second. Okay. Any more comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Aye with the motion for approval, right?
Yeah. yeah.
Okay. All right. It passed unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and before we go on to item 6, I did notice there was a police officer, and we, in the last meeting, we did allow the police officer to make her presentation so she can move on to, so can you get her in? So, I mean, I'm going out of order, but I remember that we did make that exception, so do you want to see if she's still in the...
I think she left.
She left? See, I'm sorry. You guys got to remind me, because I didn't, she came here to make a presentation, and then suddenly we got into a half hour. She left? Okay, I apologize, everybody. Okay. But I don't take full responsibility. Staff could have mentioned to me, but I'll take half. Okay. Okay, item 6, rezoning to plan redevelopment, PDRD.
All right, this is a rezoning to a planned development for a Beaches ISB. It's development 2021-002, and again, it is a quasi-judicial hearing. This is a request by Rob Merrill, Esquire, Cobb Cole, on behalf of Beaches ISB LLC, the property owner, and this is to rezone 1.4 acres of land located at the northeast and northwest corners of ISB and Peninsula Drive. It has an address of 301 East International Speedway, and it's to be rezoned from business automotive, that's BA, and business retail -1, that's BR1, to planned development redevelopment PDRD to develop a mixed-use project. All right.
Okay.
And the site that I just described at a major location, a gateway to the Beachside. At the end of ISB, as you know, is a sign that says the world's most famous beach. Take great pride in this saying, the world's most famous beach. We have a long way to go, and we've been looking for someone who could get us started and start to make a major commitment on property out there. And I think we're going to hopefully see exactly that by this project. I would show you the zoning that's out there right now. And I was said before, there's a lot of different zoning districts. And the ones that we're talking about right now are not redevelopment zoning districts. They're the kind of zoning districts you'll see along some of the major corridors, whether it's ISB or Ridgewood. So we'll just show you the future land use itself as well. And I do have to let you know that it's kind of hard to see, but when you're on the north side of ISB, you're in Main Street redevelopment area. When you're on the south side of ISB, you're in the South Atlantic redevelopment area. So some things just change because of depending on what side you're on of ISB. But the commercial mixed use is the land use primarily along that whole north side of ISB.
Yeah.
The
Not to get into this, is kind of irrelevant as far as this is concerned, but is the ISB being expanded to the south end? Like in other words, I mean the traffic lanes, because I hear.
I believe that the south side is the intent from the last round that we had with the Florida
DOT?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the intent.
All right.
Okay. So you have the picture of the Shell station that has been vacant.
One last question about the Shell station. Is there a Brownsfield designation there, or?
There are brownfield designations on all commercial corridors throughout the city.
Yes is the answer.
So yes,
Okay, so, I mean, have they,
potentially.
okay, so have they seen whether or not there's any contamination or anything like that?
There is.
Yeah, and I'd let the applicant speak to that.
Okay, no problem.
Could hold the question for them. I think they could probably.
But if there is, the city has resources to help them out.
What's a brownfield designation?
What's that?
What is a brownfield designation?
Gasoline and oil in the ground.
Underground
as a
tanks
result of-
Okay.
and contamination potentially. It does not mean that there is, but for the purposes of getting the designation throughout the city was so that when we could anticipate there would be some contamination, we could at least be pre-qualified to allow property owners, not necessarily the city, to start to address the brownfield issue.
But there's government assistance that helps them with the cleanup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at an old map of the city that designates where we had service stations way back, all of the used oil and all of the detritus was dumped on site.
Okay.
Wasn't removed. And that has affected the quality of groundwater. We had some real interesting places in the city where when you dug down 5 feet, you started into a big surprise. It's all over the city because the island was very heavily populated at that time, and there were many service stations and automotive-related businesses there.
Okay.
Okay. All right, sorry, I just,
And so also that was, by the way, we have these designated on both sides of Peninsula Ave. So you have the east block and the west block. The pictures here are of the west block, obviously west of the Shell station. And everyone, I'm sure, is familiar with the Gateway Restaurant. It's a great meeting place for some people in the community. And then you also have what was a building that housed offices and businesses at one time, and now it's been pretty much converted over to a storefront church.
Yeah.
So that's the current situation. So there's still you have an operating restaurant at this time. And then as far as the project description goes, like I said, it's a mixed-use development that's proposed, and the existing car wash would really be upgraded and put back together again at this point. That's the current intent. The applicant can certainly update us if anything is changing with that. And then the addition of a restaurant and a package store, and there would be 25 parking spaces on the block with the Shell station.
Excuse me, but what would the landscape require? I mean, this is an ocean of hardscape. This site might have 5 trees on it, and not really lively trees. It has been, it is devoid of landscaping completely. My only concern would be to look at the landscape plan, because as you mentioned, this is going to be a gateway project into the city. And I certainly, I tried to see what the landscape plan would look like, and there are a couple of sketches, but they still have 5 or 6 trees in them. And so sometime, I'd like to see a more detailed plan. I know that the new zoning category carries with it landscape requirements. And I don't know whether this drawing was designed to address those. I can't imagine that it does. So there must be more in play here. Again, I think the zoning change values up. There's a property, there isn't a question there. But let's not make the same mistake twice. I mean, we've made mistakes on taking the public right-of-way and giving it to private developers so that they could have more space on their pool deck, and yet you have to walk single file on A1A because we've lost the public right-of-way. Let's be very sensitive about the sidewalks there. You're adjacent to pedestrian areas, to residential areas on both the north and the south, including houses on the river in both directions. And my only concern on this, I think it's a great project and long overdue, is the landscaping element of it. And I don't know if that's our purview. I mean, it's part of the, comes with the zoning. And I'd be very, very interested in what the developer's idea is about green space.
I see Parker Mitchenberg in the audience, so after you finish your, we can.
This is an ocean of cement and asphalt you've never seen. You see the water runoff when there's a rain there, Reed. It's almost scary.
Reed, continue.
Okay, just really to address that, we have a landscape a plan. Again, it's not of great detail. It shows you where the landscape islands would be placed in there to provide that buffer. There may need to be some additional trees in there. At site plan review, as we go through this, we can look at that, but this is an opportunity for you to have that discussion with the applicant directly, and they can clarify exactly what the planting will be going forward.
Okay.
Also, when it comes to the view, I think some of you may have seen this. It was in the newspaper, and there were some other conceptual drawings and showing the location of the outdoor seating, inside seating. It was something that would catch your eye and really change the look on the gateway as you're coming over the bridge, and we could be proud once again of that location. So staff, when it comes to the facade, the drawings of the building, and the use, I'll consider it really an interim use right now, but it really is a place, if you want to wash your car and then go out and sit outside, you'll actually have some other things that you can do while you're
Now, Reed, even the parking that's located on where the gateway is that considered off-site parking because the establishment is across the street?
Sure, it's across the street, sure.
Across the street, it would be a principal parking lot, and that's part of the PD and the uses that are allowed. And
So it's off-site, but being that we're making both parcels a PD
right.
and combining it, we're saying that it's not off-site.
Yeah, and well, there's actually, in this case, what the PD is stating is a modification of the land use so that
Right.
they have two
Location.
parking spaces that
Okay.
they're going to ask that they not be required to have. I think it's two.
Okay.
And so that does get addressed in the waivers that are in here. So just again, the redevelopment plan itself encourages this, and it really is about both the public domain, the street, and the sidewalk, and getting that fixed up. And it's really about a partnership between the city and the property owner, the developer who's going to fix this up and make this look good. Because, you know, if all you do is develop what's inside the property and the street looks terrible, you're not quite there. It's a partnership to try to make it look good while you're doing the development. And so we hope that will happen. Again, we have Department of Transportation to work with, so that always makes it interesting. The land development code modifications, there are a few, and I've skipped over the uses. I think you've already seen that in your packet. But those uses would apply to future use of where the parking lots are on the west block, where there can be future development on that block. What I want to do is, again, turn your attention to the land development code modifications. And the first one is requiring a minimum drive aisle width of 24 feet. That's the standard. The applicant is requesting a width of 20 feet, and this would allow for the redevelopment of the site with the existing constraints and allow for some of that additional parking and the way that they have to move the vehicles in and out of the property. The second one is the stacking of the vehicles in the car wash, and so they want to make sure that is addressed with how many vehicles need to be back there, because right now it's a stacking distance for 2 vehicles per car wash bay. And again, the applicant can explain what they believe the impact is there, but that will help if you look at how tight the area is behind those aisles when this was built, they just need to have the ability to have that changed to not require all that stacking. And the next one is the section of the code that requires certain off-street parking spaces, and that's where we talked about it was actually 3 parking spaces that they're asking to reduce the required 28 down to 25 parking spaces.
If there's plenty of trees in that that are added, sure.
So and then there is an 8-foot wide perimeter landscaping. Really, most of this applies to the west block. And if you look at Peninsula Drive in particular, and at the corner at ISB, it's all concrete, asphalt, and that's where a big change could occur.
Yeah.
If that is going to be provided more landscape. And in this particular case, staff is making an additional comment to include more landscaping. The intent is that landscaping and the detail for the landscaping will be provided when the site is redeveloped. Okay, so there's a timing issue with that block and when that would occur, because obviously if you don't know what's going there yet, our concern is even at the phase of providing additional parking in there, new configuration of parking as you see on the plan, we'd like to have that addressed. It's just something that we'd like to work out through the site plan process and hopefully get a little more landscaping right along that section.
There's a lot of infrastructure on that corner right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is.
Reed, if you get in your car and you drive down Seabreeze Boulevard and you look at the quality of the landscaping on Seabreeze Boulevard and you go over the bridge and you drive down Beach Street and you look at the quality of the landscaping on Beach Street, there is no question which is superior and which contributes, I think, to the quality of the environment we'd like to see here in Daytona Beach. And so it's not just landscaping, it's quality landscaping. Years ago, a friend of mine said, we've got to do away with using sable palm trees. That's all anybody uses it in our city. And for many years we did. That was the solution for a lot of the requirements. But the city spent an awful lot of money on the west side, on the south side of International Speedway Boulevard when you come over the bridge there. And it's a major difference, improvement. And I think landscaping is one of the big solutions, at least for me, as just one member of this board. But it has to be quality, it has to be landscaping that is quality landscaping that does help introduce people to the world's most famous beach and contributes to your goal, and the goal of your department, I think.
Reed?
Okay. So the last item I wanted to speak to was a waiver for that installation of some landscaping that's over along that large retaining wall, and obviously it's just not the room to do it. The wall provides that buffer. So I just want to point that out as a modification. And with that, I have a recommendation that if all the LDC modification requests are approved, including this, the staff recommendation for that additional perimeter landscaping, staff recommends approval of the application to rezone the 1.4 plus minus acres of land located at Speedway Boulevard and Peninsula Drive from BA and BR1 to planned development, redevelopment, to develop a mixed use project. Some of it's reuse.
Okay.
I do want to add to that that the item is tentatively scheduled to be heard by the Planning Board on March 25th, 2021, and by the City Commission for the first reading on April 21st, 2021, and for the second reading on May 5th, 2021. That's the public hearing. Majority vote of the Redevelopment Board members present and voting is required to recommend approval to the Planning Board and the City Commission.
Okay, thank you. Now we could hear from the applicant. And by the way, Tony, you're going to be the most prepared Planning Board member on March 25th, okay?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Board members, for the record, Rob Merrill with Cobb Cole, 149 South Ridgewood. Jessica's going to send you guys, pass out a few of these renderings that are a little larger than the ones that were in your packet. I think that's sometimes easier to see. You know, thank you, Reed and staff. Reed does a great job. He's very thorough, which certainly makes my job a lot easier in explaining to you guys what we're proposing here. This is one of those projects, and I've had a handful of these. I've been thankful to have been involved in a handful where I consider just standing up and asking you guys to join hands and sing Kumbaya with me and thank a guy like Dr. Chuck Duva for investing in a place that has been wallowing for quite some time now. I don't know. I'm sure some of the folks up on this board, like I have, been involved in the effort to try to do something about East ISB. I spent a better part of maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years on the Chamber's Economic Development Committee. And we decided that we needed to focus on one project in the whole community that we thought we could do something about. And everybody came to the conclusion that East ISB was the project. And we spent time having a drone video done that showed, I don't know whether you guys saw this, I hope you did, I hope it wasn't wasted money, but Volusia County and Daytona and the Chamber put their money together and did a drone video that showed the area. Started out at Tomoka Town Center area, LPGA and 95, came down and showed the Speedway, and then it came down and it focused on East ISB. Well, since that time, nothing's really happened. Now, Loretta Arthur's here, I think, if she's still here. She and her company, probably the first private sector investment I've seen on East ISB. I'm sorry if there's somebody else that I haven't thought of. But Chuck Duva is the first guy to come in here and actually put the money on the barrel and say, okay, I want to assemble this land, I want to develop something, and I want to put a spark that's hopefully going to make something happen over here on East ISB. Now, Gary, you're talking about landscaping. I don't know if you've seen the hardscape, landscape, plans that DOT and the county and the city have already approved and they're moving forward with. I think they're, Reed, you might know, but they're most way through the engineering and the design and everything on it. So we're going to have a bunch of new pavers and landscaping and hardscaping and utility all redone. So there's a huge public sector project that's already happening there. And I don't know the timing, but I think it's pretty soon, for public sector projects. So, what we all agree that we need, whether it's the chamber or the city or the county or the citizens or the people who live there, we need people to come in and invest so that it actually can be, brought to a place where people can be proud to come across the bridge and go to the world's most famous beach. I mean, for God's sakes, the economic development folks in this area have taken people over to the Seabreeze Bridge or another bridge to get them onto the beachside to see the beach, because they're scared to drive them down East ISB. And I've got to give Jim Chisholm and the city a lot of credit for cleaning up the spots that they acquired. You remember you come down Peninsula and you hit ISB and you see the neon sign of the full body shampoo being but the full body shampoo parlor right in your face. Well, they bought that, the city did, and there's been improvements. So I'm not saying that people haven't been making progress, but a guy like this walking in the room and saying, I'm going to put 7 figures down to buy this, and I'm going to put 7 figures down to fix this up and make it look good, I think we should all just be saying thank you to him. But since questions have been raised, I want to try to address those as best we can. Gary, first thing I'd say, other than the fact that there's a whole lot of public sector money going into landscaping and hardscaping, this project, although the plan that you saw is in a scale that you can't really see all the landscaping, Parker Minchberg's here with me, and he's got landscape plans, and he's got medjool palms and lots of shrubbery and, beautification. And Chuck Duva, is very landscape oriented. He's going to tell you a little bit about his vision after I get done yammering here. I'll be done in a second. And when you hear from Chuck, you'll realize he's dedicated to this. We got a guy who's a local guy, just recent past chairman of Team Volusia, he's one of our biggest cheerleaders, and he's one of the best corporate citizens I know of around here with his company, homegrown company that's very successful. He's done other development projects like the Cornerstone Office project at Williamson and LPGA, which is, I think, the only true Class A office space in the entire community. And he redid his offices on Division and US 1 in Ormond, and Ormond Beach loves him. So, the things that he's done already, he's got a track record. He's coming here and doing something in a place that we've been begging for somebody to do something forever and ever. So I hope that most of what we get out of this conversation tonight is you guys saying 2 thumbs up. Appreciate you doing it. So, but with that said, I'll say that the reason we're here tonight is PD. This is an old gas station. I actually represented First Coast Energy, the property owner that sold the property to Dr. Duva, and they got it cleaned up. So there were leaking tanks, and we do a lot of it. I don't personally anymore, but our firm does a lot of the tank cleanup stuff. So this is a site that's been cleaned up. We understand the brownfield. One of my partners is the leading brownfield attorney in the state of Florida. So brownfields is just a way basically to have public sector help with cleanups. And so to the extent that there's any additional need for that, we're aware of it. Appreciate you guys giving us the input. But I think the project you're looking at on the piece of paper here is Chuck's step forward on this project, and there's more to be done on the other side. So what we've done is we put a template together with a PD with a lot of mixture of uses that give him a lot of opportunity. So we've had other projects like this where we had the first step was, for instance, You know, the Project Longboard on A1A that consolidated Tomoka put that step forward and built those 2 restaurants on the ocean. First 2 new restaurants we've had in 50 years. But the ultimate plan there is to build tall buildings on top of it. Right. And so this is a first step, much like those restaurants that you see on A1A. So Chuck's going to come forward and talk to you about his vision, which I think is exceptional. And you can look at it and just see the change from the picture that Reed showed you of the gas station that's been closed down now for many years. I've had to defend my client who owned the place for code enforcement actions, and you know, we've had homeless people behind those buildings and breaking into the buildings, et cetera. So you're going from a situation like that to a brand new project that I'm gonna let Chuck do the honor of explaining to you.
All right. So, next speaker, Dr. Charles Duva.
Thank you very much, committee. I appreciate you allowing us to present this evening. Maybe some of you read the newspaper article, maybe you saw the video. I've lived here since 1964, and again, just like some of these folks that are working with me, remember, and Mr. Libby, probably you as well, remember some of the vibrancy of that corridor. And yes, at the end of that corridor, it says the world's most famous beach. Well, there's really nothing famous about the street.
No.
And I can't tell you how many people have come up to me since that article, emails, texts, unknown people from the community sending me emails. I don't know how they got my email, but they did. And with a tremendous amount of positive energy behind all of their comments. The vision is to be a spark for that street.
Great.
And Mr. Libby, with respect to landscaping, if you look at Cornerstone Office Park, one of the best landscaping pieces in the community.
Yeah.
I've been approached, because I still own those buildings. I owned them, I sold them, I bought them back again in 2016. I've had developers come to me and say, well, let's change that corner. And I've gone in front of the planning board before, and I recognize a face or two here. And I fought to have that quality of landscaping, architecture, thought behind what our community needs. And fortunately, that's really, on the other side was Rob. And fortunately, the planning board decided, well, let's kind of keep things the way they are. With respect to the landscaping, the design, and the original intent of the property development there. But the whole idea of this is to spark development. I've talked to many of the owners on the street. I've talked to many frustrated people. I've talked to many people with that really nobody has a real vision as to what should happen there. And it's sad because all the businesses that I own, the building company, by the way, started off with 5 people in South Daytona. We moved to Daytona Beach at Cornerstone, and now we have 1,700. A successful business is a business that doesn't just do business within the community. It does business outside of your community and brings money into your community. So that's what that business does. That's the real success in business. And so when I bring people into town, we don't bring them down ISB. And Rob's right. I mean, when I interview physicians that want to work in our physician corporation, and we have about 100 of those, we don't go down that street. The interviewer goes down other streets and goes to other cities. And this town has so much to offer. We have an ocean. We have a beautiful river. We have a very intriguing downtown that needs work with a ballpark that's fantastic. I mean, I go to many of the games, and I've been a seasonal ticket holder as long as I can remember. But there are such great assets here. My whole intent is to add another asset. So when people drive into Daytona Beach, and they have to come down ISB, I want them to see something that's extremely well landscaped to the point that it makes everybody else on that street embarrassed they own that piece of property. That's my intent.
Good.
If we can't get them right away, we'll embarrass them into doing something right in a nice way. And for me, this is not about money. And my wife says to me all the time, I hope your dream comes true. And I told her, I said, it will. Because the ideas that we have for this facility is going to be, we're going to have food. It's going to be beach-type food. People come into town, that's the first thing they're going to see when they come across that bridge. They're going to see a beautifully landscaped piece of property. They're going to see a very well architecturally ingrained with our environment type of property. And the whole color scheme and the landscaping is going to draw them there. So it draws those kind of people back in. And then other people start thinking that maybe I should invest in a piece of property on this street. Because when you come to Daytona Beach, what do we have to offer them? The beach? The hotel? There's so many things we don't. But it doesn't happen overnight. It's like, you know, building anything, it's one brick at a time. But it's got to be a quality brick. It's got to be a well thought out brick. It's got to be a project that you know people will utilize. People love food. I love food. We are going to have entertainment there for people that are between 40 and 70, not under 30. We're not going to do a razzles. I have nothing against razzles, but there are many people that love R&B music. They love jazz. They love rock music. And that's the kind of music we're going to provide. And it's going to be quality. Terrific. Because pretty much everything I touch and think about is what is about quality. And our community deserves it. When we built those two buildings out on ISB, people came to me and they said, what in the world are you thinking about building two Class A office space buildings? I said, my first comment was, one is that our community deserves it, and two, nobody else has one. The closest one is Orlando and Lake Mary. The next one's Jacksonville. And so this is the same kind of idea.
Terrific.
And that's where we're going.
All right, well, thank you very much.
If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but the technical questions go to the people that got me here.
I think you did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Parker, do you even need to speak? All right. Okay, because I mean, you know, as far as landscaping, you know, I mean, I think Dr. Duvo has won us all over, you know. But anyways, okay. We don't have any more public discussion? Okay, do I hear a motion? Yeah, but normally what I do is I get a motion, a second, then we go to.
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve.
I'll
Move for approval?
acceptance, sure.
Okay, is there a second?
I guess I'm not there on what you're doing.
I'm just getting, okay, that's fine.
Go to questions, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to go to questions right after this. I'm just getting a motion in a second, but if you guys want to go to questions right now, go ahead. Excuse me?
To accept this proposal. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
How many seats in the restaurant?
So we don't have a site plan yet, done yet, but we're working on that. That'll be the next step, is coming forward with a site plan. So if we can get it, Park, if you want to get up and deal with details, go ahead. Yep. We're not there yet.
Okay, and on your rendering, the color, four-color rendering, looking at the south elevation, where is the restaurant versus the package store? I can tell where the car wash is.
First off, good afternoon, Parker Minchenberg, 1729 Ridgewood Avenue. Hey, Teresa. When you look at the front of the top elevation, you'll see on the right side of it are the existing car wash bays. So that'll be the car wash portion. Then the higher tower in the middle will be the kitchen, and to the left of that will be the dining.
Okay.
And the package is mixed with it?
Yeah, it's pretty modest. It's 800 square feet, so
Yeah.
it's a small part of it.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I have no question.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, sure.
Okay. Now, is there a discussion? Would anybody like to comment? No comments?
I'll make one comment. While I think this is, am I turned on? I think this is a marquee property. The more I studied it, the more I realized it's a very challenging property to develop. Hence, I think I understand why you're doing what you're doing, and I think this rendering is very attractive. I think it would be a nice improvement. And I certainly think we should, well, we've already voted, but
No, we haven't voted. Motion a second.
the waivers you've requested are certainly in line of this property, you know, and the difficulties with it, which is why I think it's been there for more than 10 years vacant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a comment too. I know you said earlier we should be jumping up and down saying thank you, and I think that is a very true statement because we all believe that we need something when we come over that bridge. So thank you for stepping up. It's very difficult in this town to grow business.
Yes, and I do believe that this is that spark that you were talking about, and I appreciate that you're doing this. Okay. And the only comments I'm going to make to staff for the future, okay, is there's two items that we've talked about at this board meeting. It's not really relevant to here, but one is we talked about that payment in lieu of parking thing that we could do for the future, you know, where it makes it easy for somebody who's a property owner if they want to forego a couple parking spaces and put money in escrow towards a future, you know, parking facility or what have you. Other cities are doing it. That's something we should look at. And the second thing is, I noticed that in the PDF, they're not requesting a drive-through. I do think it's a mistake of the redevelopment area not to have drive-throughs, you know, to prohibit that. But that's just my opinion, because I mean, my God, you know, we don't even have a McDonald's anywhere on the Beachside of Daytona. But anyways, all right, that's just my comment, you know, because I do think that's
Question, I guess.
Yes. Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? You got your two thumbs up. Okay.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Good luck.
All right. Okay, redevelopment project updates. And by the way, in the future, can we just automatically put redevelopment project updates at the beginning of every agenda so that way when the police officer does come, she doesn't leave?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll actually put the police report at the front.
Yes.
And then my report, if I have one, can
Could be at the end. That's fine. I just feel bad, you know.
Change that. Okay. And very briefly, we put in the public works projects for you. And did I, those were not. I think it came in late. Yes, it did. How about that? I have them to hand out, but they were just a little too late to get into your packets. So there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, there's 2 in there. Yeah.
Thank you. And so it will be our intent going forward to continue to update you on the progress of the various capital projects that are in the planning stages or actually occurring, what phase they're in. So Public Works is doing a great job now tracking projects, and I think it'll help us going forward when you have questions about these, and if there's something that's a concern, you just contact me, call me with any questions you have any time of the month. Doesn't have to be at the board meeting. This is information that we work with every day, and of course, you can always go directly to Public Works and contact them if you have any questions. So with that, I have nothing else directly right now to report.
Okay.
Okay.
And we don't have any more public comments, so any,
There are people outside.
okay, they don't have to sign up to speak?
I don't think we have the red sheets right now. I think so.
Okay. Hello, Ann.
Avenue. Just for the record, I think that the tattoo parlor and the event space use and the regularity of the events is a fantastic thing. I think it's going to be a great addition to the street. I have zero objections to the project itself. What I object to is that when the developer-initiated meeting occurred, that use was not discussed. And in this case, adding an additional use to the PD of having regular events is a fantastic thing. I have no objection to it. But what happens next time when it's not a fantastic thing and they have added it without an additional neighborhood meeting? My objection is purely procedural. And city staff should have required that another neighborhood meeting be held when they made that use change. And it's up to you guys as a board to support that kind of an effort on the city staff. Nobody should have been able to just slide a use through an additional use onto a PD without the neighborhood being notified. It's procedural. But I think this is a fantastic project. I think in this case, the additional use is wonderful. I welcome them to the street. I think they'll be a great addition. But as a board, you could have taken a harder position on that because, and maybe you had to approve it anyhow. But the staff should have requested a second neighborhood meeting for an additional use. And I would have expected some of you to at least understand and support that. Thank you.
Is that all? Okay.
Can we comment on that or no?
Well, in actuality, the public comments that happen now should have been for items not on the agenda, but that's okay. But you can comment on that.
So just to address it, I hear what she's saying. I think, unfortunately, sometimes the red tape and procedural stuff ends up taking so long that it prohibits new businesses. I do want to be sensitive to it because I'm part of the community too.
Yeah.
And I don't want random things just to slide through, but I do think sometimes it's a judgment call of what is being proposed and do we want to delay a new business longer? If they've been doing this since 2019, do we want to delay them even further and potentially lose them? I think that risk outweighed requiring another meeting in this particular situation.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Do we get a report or a summary of neighborhood meeting so that we understand what has either been covered or not?
We had a sign-up sheet, but we didn't have we didn't have any minutes.
In other words, I think Ms. Ruby's point is the procedure seems to be missing one link to make
Right, if they're gonna add
educate
something,
us
yeah, yeah.
what they did discuss and what they didn't discuss. If it pops up then on the application, then we are in a position to say, well, this really wasn't discussed by the neighborhood. Is the neighborhood in compliance with it? And if not, maybe it warrants another meeting. I think there might be something missing there, Reed, that
Reed, when you do a change such as this, aren't the property owners notified of this meeting?
There is not a notice that goes out again, if you're talking about people within so many feet of the property. There is a notice that is going to go out in the process that's part of the public hearing before the city commission.
Okay.
Well, we don't want it to look like we didn't do our due diligence in front of the city commission. That's the last thing I think we would like. And so I think if there can be some report that the staff says grace over on a neighborhood meeting so that we are aware of what issues have and haven't been discussed, then we're in a position of power. We have information. Ms. Ruby's disappointed because we weren't tougher. Well, we didn't really know.
We didn't know, because, yeah.
We didn't know that there had been a second item added.
Until tonight. And it's,
until tonight,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. And then we are under the gun to make a decision if so I hear what she's saying. We probably should have added some comments to that point, but yeah, how do we protect the residents in the future from that?
And I'm sorry, I missed maybe part of that conversation, so I want to make sure I'm clear on this.
Reed, if you have an opportunity to present before the city commission in any way, I think the city commission needs to know that there were, some issues that really were not brought to the attention of this board until Ms. Ruby stood up there and said, we had a great neighborhood discussion on item 1, but we never even knew about item 2.
Yeah.
Now, this meeting did occur, December 2019?
Are you talking about the Main Street tattoo?
Correct. Yeah.
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 Yeah. That is correct. It happened at that time, and there was a summary provided of the meeting.
Yeah, it's before my time, and so
Yeah.
forgive me for.
But
No, it's part of the,
that was what we
Handed
handed out to you because it was something that was not a part of it, and I put in my report that typically we would put that in the packet that you read initially. In this case, we did not have that portion. So when we report to the planning board, it'll be in there, and they'll have it in advance as well as the city commission with the summary.
So it was in the packet you handed to us today, is what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, understood.
Exactly, so-
Understood.
Yeah.
Reed, were you
I was
aware they
confused over
didn't
that as well.
discuss the second item? I mean, that Ms.
No.
Ruby felt, and see, I think that's the problem, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
because it feels like something slid under the rug.
Yeah.
And she said, this is a good use of it, but what if someone slides something under the rug that's a bad use,
Right.
So I think that's
Maybe
fair.
next time there should be time to review if something is presented day of,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all,
Good
just
point,
comments on
good
it.
point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So is that all you have? Okay, so then now we're going to go to board comments. We'll start with Tony.
Just a clarification, because I'm sitting here, but I just want to, get clarification. When I know that I can't vote, but when it comes down to making comments on particular items, am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always start with you.
Well, you point, and it's more general. So I'm thinking that I'm just a non-voting member, but I can't say anything.
No. Your opinion is valued, okay? But you get to vote when it gets to you at the planning board level,
Yeah, I do agree with what we said. We just don't want to let things just slide by us and not validate the citizens who should have had an updated meeting too. Because you look at the number of events that they have the possibility of having at that particular location. The neighbors might not agree, while it might be a good event, but I think they should be informed.
Well,
That would be my only.
Kyra, is it a requirement that when there's a zoning change that, I mean, how is the LDC address that?
So what do you mean by, they're required to have the neighborhood meeting? There isn't, as far as I'm aware.
There's a requirement to have a neighborhood meeting.
Yes, there is the requirement
Okay.
to have the meeting. It doesn't say how far, not far in advance. There isn't like a parameter of you can't have it more than 60 days before, so it happened. And the letter that was sent to the neighborhood stated, in this particular case, for greater civic engagement in the arts community through display, sale, and special events catering around the local artistic scene. So it may have been that it just was not discussed as much and to the depth as what would have been beneficial, but we don't control the neighborhood meeting and what's discussed there. That's the applicant. So
Do they keep meetings, or do they do a recording of the neighborhood meeting? If they don't, they should. And then everybody would know what they discussed or didn't discuss, I guess.
Well, I guess Common Code did write a little something. I mean, they showed in the package that they had a neighborhood meeting, when it was held. They have the people who were in attendance at the meeting, and they did a little tiny synopsis, a memorandum telling you what happened at the meeting. But yeah, it didn't go into the details, But it does say Main Street Tattoo Studio and Art Gallery Planned Development, Redevelopment Rezoning.
She's talking about the outside events. That doesn't say outside.
Yeah.
Events. That suggests it's the 50% or the 49% on the inside of the building. I think it's just, they did not anticipate, I think, the power of the outside, events. And it seemed like a surprise to them, that's all.
No problem. Okay.
Well, what I do want to say, again, the Land Development Code, it requires the neighborhood meeting to happen, and what really is the important part of the public hearing process is when there's notification, which has to be out there, there's planning board meeting, and then there is the city commission, and that public hearing before the city commission is the time when people are getting notice to be aware of that meeting. So, I think a lot of people, when they're hearing about this or paying some attention to it, they're going to show up at the planning board meeting. And so it's good we have a liaison who's here and can be familiar with what's just transpired. I, as staff, will write that information in there so they know a couple documents have been added at this meeting, and those will be shared in their packets, so it won't be a surprise.
And Reed, there's no way you could respond to Mrs. Ruby, well, we like good events, but we wouldn't like bad events. I mean, we have to assume that the events they're going to do are as stated. So, I mean, I knew she was disappointed, but I don't think it was a major, oversight.
Yeah, if anything, it was the part that, well, okay, that's fine. Okay, Krista?
I just want to say thank you all for being here. I don't know a ton about all of you guys, but I thought it was great questions tonight. I was very educated by you guys. I thought it was very forward thinking, and so I'm just excited about being on this board with you guys.
Well, thank you, and we're glad to have you. Gary?
Yeah, hi. I noticed when I requested a copy of the budget from Reed that the redevelopment areas are doing well, and both will probably be in the black very soon if they're not already. And I was wondering if there are some proactive things we might look at as a board that have been considered in the past, like the protection of some of the adjacent neighborhood areas from traffic coming in off A1A that was went through public meetings and everything, but couldn't move forward because of no money. because we didn't have the wherewithal to do it. That and the Echo initiative has been reauthorized for 20 years. It's going to be a huge amount of money that can be matched in certain degrees and under very carefully controlled situations with redevelopment dollars. And I'm wondering if there are projects within either one of the redevelopment areas that could benefit greatly from negotiations between this board and the county, because believe me, they're going to be looking for good projects because there's an awful lot of money coming in, and there's a huge amount that has been completed in the first 20 years. And so I'd be interested in looking to the staff to see if there are any bona fide community-based projects or projects that even benefit businesses in the area, in the redevelopment zones, that would warrant maybe some consideration from us on how we might be able to accomplish them, as well as being reactive, as we were tonight, to these proposals. There might be some proactive things that we might do that could make a huge difference, I think, to both businesses and people who live in the area. As you know, I was one of the perpetrators that brought the Echo to the table, and the first 20 years made a phenomenal difference. Just look at our city, at the things we were able to accomplish through Echo match dollars. And now that we appear to be moving toward cash solvency, there might be some things we might look at. I would ask Reed, probably. He probably knows better than anybody what parks there are in these areas that might need something. There are all kinds of beautification possibilities that could fit right in with some of the state money that's coming in for the major thoroughfares. There might be some smaller things that we might be able to do that would make a huge difference. That's all.
All right. Teresa?
I'd like to commend the city for their financial support of the Peabody Auditorium and the purchase of the $1,500,000 chiller. It's tremendous, as well as all of their public works that are listed here. Thank you.
Okay. Robert?
I don't have much to comment. I would like for us to take a more proactive role, and if we could find things that we could utilize the ECHO grant for, I think that would be a great use of some of our proactive roles, because it's clear that the ECHO grant is a great pathway to move things forward in our community. And I know without a doubt there are parks in the redevelopment areas that could use the help.
Yeah. Ashley?
I would just like to say that I'm extremely excited to be part of this group. It seems like everybody is like-minded and supporting businesses, and that we're all happy to see more businesses actually presenting projects for us to review. So I just am very positive about it.
Thank you. And what you guys didn't see is, like, for about 2 years, all we were doing was approving murals, okay, which was kind of disheartening. But anyways, thank you. Thank you all for being here. The only thing I'm going to mention, on a personal note, I am the president of the Friends of the Band Show, and we are starting our concert series, and I believe we were green-lighted. I'm still waiting for a final to have fireworks again every Saturday night and on the 4th of July for this year, and obviously we'll be doing the tribute. We were definitely green-lighted to do the tribute shows starting Memorial Weekend all the way through the end of September, so that's been, given the thumbs up and everything like that, and we'll do the press release as soon as I get the okay from the city that we were green lighted for the fireworks, so that way we have the proper press release. Okay. Anyways, thank you guys very much.
Dino, that's a perfect ECHO project. I don't know why, the Friends of the Band Shell, if you are a 501c3.
We are.
Can't apply for support. It's one of the biggest concert series. It attracts more people attended your concerts at the Band Shell than went on every trail in West Volusia County over a 2-year period. I mean, it's a surefire thing.
Thank you, and I'll get with you on that. Okay. Thank you, guys. Meeting adjourned.